in.
right. Yes,
Our
do.
we've been hyping this up for a long time.
I'm a little nervous about this. Yes, it is time.
It is
Our
time.
well-known, unknown, well-known guest
I
is
mean,
here. He's
some of
here.
the listeners thought it was Lloyd, and we revealed in a video last night this is not Lloyd.
It is not Lloyd.
This person
Who else?
actually is very well known.
Everybody knows this man. Everybody knows this man.
Yes.
So,
So, without further ado, why don't you say who our very
all right,
special, well known guest is?
listeners, we would like to introduce to you Dr. Benjamin Franklin.
Yay!
Well, let's see here. Is there a quorum in here today? Well, I see a quorum there. So I suppose I'll continue to sit down.
Take your time. We know you today is your birthday, from what I understand, and
Yeah.
you are how old at this point?
Oh, my knees. I'm 315 years old today. Let me
Wow.
remove my hat because I'd rather be polite.
Yes.
Uh,
You look wonderful for 315. That's amazing.
I feel pretty good for my age. I think I'm doing well. These darn Windsor chairs, I need wheels on these things. Now I'm set, so I'm at your mercy.
Okay.
Well, the 1700s weren't known for their comfort. I know that much.
We viewed it as some comfort. You have to realize in our time versus your century. Now I'm here, it's my century. But you have to realize the average speed was about 3 to 4 miles an hour. So it was by horse carriage out in the elements and the weather. But surprisingly, the buildings and the houses in this 1700s were in the cities were fairly comfortable. So there's some surprising things that you would think that were pretty advanced for the century we're in. But there's other not near the conveniences that you would have today.
Yes, yes. Well, can I say I introduced you as Dr. Benjamin Franklin. Is that correct? Is that your correct title?
That is a title. I have to admit and be honest about it. I only had 2 years of education when I was between 8 and 10 years old. I went to grammar school for 1 year. And then I went to the Boston Latin School for another year. My father was not well off, and in those days you had to pay the schoolmaster to educate your children. So I at least got 2 years of education. But the doctorates came later, and throughout my life and career, I was a ferocious reader, and some of your listeners and younger people might take my advice that I would read as much as I could. And it's so much better today to acquire things to read. In my time as a young boy, my father, he had a meager little shelf with a few books on it, which I read. A lot of them were by ministers and preachers of sermons and things of that nature. But as I grew older and earned some money, I saved my money and often bought books and borrowed books. And we could talk more about that. But getting to the doctorates came later when my experiments in science, and especially my electricity experiments, I was given honorary doctorates from Harvard, Yale, St. Andrews in Scotland, various universities throughout this country and Europe. So in those days, you actually had to have the knowledge to achieve a doctorate, and they just didn't hand them out if you were a large donor to a university. So there is some significance into my doctorate. So having said that and worked a lifetime attaining a doctorate, I'd rather prefer that you call me Ben.
Okay, that was
Yeah.
our next question. What would you like to be called? So we got that answered. All right, Jill. What else
Okay.
do we want to know about Ben?
Okay. So, Ben, we'd like to know what inspired you to make the Franklin stove.
Oh, the stove.
And
Yes.
can you broil in it?
Can you broil in it? I, I, I would be rather nervous about broiling. I
Oh.
think you could set a kettle on top and warm your tea,
Hmm.
maybe bring it to a boil. But my stove was the idea of it was to efficiently heat homes,
Oh.
sort of like it's very similar to how a furnace today operates. Now, it just so happens, and you ladies could reap the benefit of that. I brought along my
Blueprint.
drawings of my stove,
Oh,
and
Wow.
it's
okay.
We'll
made
have
of
to post that. We could post that picture on our social
anybody.
media if you know what that is, Ben.
Oh, I do know now. I've been catching up quite
You've
great.
you've been studying up on the current events of the
I
21st
have been
century.
studying and learning as I go here.
Well, good for
Yeah.
you.
Well, what boils water faster? You mentioned the tea kettle, the Franklin stove, or an instant pot?
I think a microwave would probably be the fast.
Yeah, probably.
But in my time, a hearth would have a fire in it, and there would be an arm of iron that the blacksmith would forge and have a hook, and you would swing it over, and it would be a pot hanging from it to boil water or cook, and swing it over to the fire like you would cook on any fire if you were camping or anything else today. So that would be in my time that boiled water the quickest. The idea of my stove, Franklin stove, was to radiate heat within the room. A fireplace, when you put the logs in, they burn very fast, and most of the heat goes up the chimney. You have people have fireplaces today. It's the same thing now. What they have with them is a motor and a blower um, that air circles the backside and around the fireplace to push that warm air back into the room. That's exactly how my fireplace worked. I
Oh
had a
wow.
series of baffles in the back of it. They were like a heat exchanger in today's furnaces. And
Hmm.
that hot air, before it would go up the chimney, it was forced to go through a series of little channels around these baffles, come back out into the room. So you burned less wood and saved money,
Ooh.
and you gained more heat. And when the fire went out in the evening, the iron stayed hot for quite a while after and continued to generate heat within the room.
Hmm.
So
So
now
saving money, a penny saved is a penny earned, right?
it always is
we
frugality.
we were wondering about that.
Frugality is the key to survival. I
Yes.
was frugal when I was young, and was very cognizant of how I spent money.
Yeah.
So I became what you'd be interested to know. I ended up being one of the wealthiest colonists in America at the age of 38 years old. I retired from my printing business, and
Wow.
I became a gentleman. Well, you would ask, well, you seem pretty nice, and maybe in your younger days, were you a mean person? Did it took you 38 to become a gentleman? What happened at 25? Well, becoming a gentleman in the 18th century is quite different than what it's referred to today. If you were known as a gentleman, you were wealthy enough that you did not have to work ever. So that gained yourself gentleman status in the 18th century.
All right. Well, Ben, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to have been your guest. And what I'm going to do now is put my hat back on, take my tankard along down to the ale house and meet with some friends. So I'm glad that I made some new friends tonight. I'm going to see a few of my old friends this evening. So you all have a safe and prosperous year through this 2021.
Wow. Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, you've been a wonderful guest, and we appreciate all your knowledge that you shared with us.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm sure at 315 years old, I'll be hanging around for a while longer. I'm
Sure.
trying to make it for 415. We'll see how it goes.
And
Well,
happy
maybe.
birthday. Are you going to have some
Yeah.
birthday cake tonight?
Where is my cake?
Yeah.
You were going to make some recipes. I
We
would
were
like
supposed to make you a birthday cake.
Yeah, we should have. We
Oh,
made bagels instead.
Hey, well, please put a candle in one for me.
We
Okay.
will.
Good night.
Happy
Good
birthday,
night.
Ben.